see if I can get this thing to run a little bit quicker. I'm going to try and back dump here. I don't have a whole lot of ammo today, but we'll see how it goes.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hey everybody, Moonbase Alpha, thanks for watching. So, I got myself a Fostech Echo. This came in yesterday for me. This is the manual to it, and I'll talk about this in just a second. This is very important, and keep this. Don't throw it away. But I went ahead and installed it in an AR-15 of mine. This is a Spikes tactical lower receiver. Built this way back in like I guess maybe 2012 or so. And it's a nice rifle, all done. I want to talk about this manual here first, because the manual is very, very bad. The instructions are very lacking. Giant walls of text. There's basically a legal brief before you even get into the instructions, and nothing really labeling the instructions whatsoever. Pictures leave a little bit to be desired, to be honest with you. And like so many others have said, it's a bit of a problem. I would refer you to, I guess, Chad over at IRECVET8888's video on how to install the Fostech Echo. It is a really good video, and it will teach you a lot. Needless to say, my frustration level was, I'd say probably 7 to 8 out of 10 when I installed this thing for the first time. It was really, really problematic. Part of that was because nowhere in here does it say you can't put it in a Colt lower. And I tried to put this in a Colt AR-15A4 before I put it into this rifle here. And really similar setups between the two. They both have got the same rail system, same barrel length, etc. But I wanted to put it in the Colt because it's a little bit lighter. Anyway, long story short, the Colt lowers actually will not accept the Fostech Echo. So if you've got a Colt, you're SOL. Anyway, I put it in the Spikes, and it runs great. Took it to the range last night and scared the RSOs. They thought I had an M16, which this is not. This is not fully automatic. It's actually semi-automatic only. It just has a very, very, very fast trigger. Now, the reason I said keep the manual handy, this contains within it like I said, a legal brief, basically, that says, you know, here is what this is, how it mechanically differs from some of the other carriers out there, and it also contains within it correspondence with the BATF from Fostech's lawyer. Now, if you have one of these available to you, you can read it in fine detail. But needless to say, basically what it is it is a letter from the BATFE stating that it is a semi-automatic trigger. That's important because if you train to do triple taps or double taps or whatever, manipulate the trigger quickly with this thing, it will fire as fast as an M16. I know this for a fact because I took it, like I said, to the public range last night and freaked the RSOs out. They thought that I had either had a broken trigger that was running away from me or that it was an M16, and they don't allow machine guns for whatever reason on that range. I guess because it's indoors and they don't want people who don't know how to control a machine gun to hit the ceiling, so that's understandable. Long story short, like I said, this is semi-automatic, and it is that fast. What it is it's a binary trigger system. Think of it as a three-way switch. There is an off position here in the middle, and there's an on position on either side of this mechanical switch. Mechanically what it's doing is it actually halves the trigger movement. You can pull the trigger back, it will fire a round. When you release it, it will fire a round. There are two distinct mechanical movements. And because of that, the BATF has determined that it is 100% legal, it is semi-automatic. It just uses half the trigger travel because it has basically two switches within it. It's like having a double trigger in a way. So, like I said, I replaced a Geisley SSAE in it, so it had to really be a pretty darn good trigger. I will tell you that overall quality impressions of the trigger in semi-automatic mode. Let me just make sure this is clear. Semi-automatic trigger is creepy. I would say it is 6 to 7 out of 10 in terms of the overall quality of the trigger. Part of that is because it looks like they're using a lot of cast components. or they're using some kind of nickel boron process on the finish that is creating a lot of pits. And the overall machining quality, and I say this as a machinist, you can probably hear my CNC mill running in the background, is not good. The quality is, in my opinion, quite low actually for the price that you're paying. The machining quality is not good, it's very rough. There are a lot of pits in the surfaces of the materials of the trigger itself, which leads to a lot of creep. Like I said, it has a decent pull, it's not great. It has a single stage pull for the semi-auto, and it has a relatively indistinct creepy brake that's kind of light. It's not a bad trigger, but it's not great. Where the magic happens is when you switch it into that third mode. This allows the trigger to basically fire once when you pull the trigger and once when you release the trigger. In essence, it, like I said, halves the trigger travel of the rifle. It is very, very fast. Now, where this differs from some other systems, notably the Franklin Armory system, which has been out there for a couple of years, is this has a disconnector in it. And essentially what happens mechanically is there is a little switch inside that prevents the gun from firing or from having hammer follow and firing potentially out of battery. It's a safety issue. They call it a safety lock that goes in this. Now it does kind of jank up the upper and lower fit. You have to basically put this together in a specific way, and I'll show you how to do that. But it is, I think, one of the things that really sets it apart. Mechanically, it cannot have hammer follow, which is really, really important. It basically takes it from being kind of a novelty, a toy, to being something that is actually tactically sound. You can put a double tap into a very, very, very small area with this thing, and I think it's reliable enough to actually use in defensive use. Like I said, I shot this all last night at the public range, and I was very happy with it. No issues, no malfunctions whatsoever. Very, very reliable. The only error that I would have on occasion would be that the trigger, which was supposed to reset, for the forward travel of the binary option, would on occasion only fire semi-auto, and the only way to clear that is basically to switch it into semi-auto mode and then go back into the binary. That could have been just because of the way that I was manipulating the trigger, not pulling it back fully. You do have to pull it back fully in order to engage that secondary sear, I think is what it is. And forgive me if my terminology is wrong. That is entirely possible. So it's probably user error, to be honest with you, and if I had a little bit more experience with the trigger in and of itself, I'd probably get used to it and never have those problems. But I'll tell you what, it ran reliably for me. That's a big deal, because that basically, like I said, it takes it from being a novelty toy to being something that is actually pretty spectacular. And for somebody who cannot really own a machine gun around here, my chief law enforcement officer doesn't really like it. And I know there's 41F, but frankly, transferable machine guns are ridiculously expensive. They're outside the reach of any millennial, I guarantee you that. As far as I'm concerned, this is a really good alternative. Like I said, I would highly suggest keeping the literature with the rifle, especially if you're going to be shooting at a public range or something along those lines. You want to keep this with it. The reason why is you don't want some moron bumpkin cop who's off duty looking at you and saying, oh my gosh, he's got an unregistered machine gun, taking you down to county because he doesn't know the law. This will explain 100% of everything that he needs to know in case there are people with questions. And believe me, there were people with questions when I shot this at the range last night. The RSOs literally thought I had a machine gun or that my trigger had broken and it was firing full auto, which is not a good thing to have. And I explained to one of the guys that it was a Fostech Echo, and after that he did a little bit of research on his phone, and he's like, oh, okay, I see what that is. He had never seen anything like it before and thought literally he thought it was an M16. So like I said, this is a semi-automatic trigger system. It just operates a little bit differently, and because of that, it allows you to fire pretty quickly. So that being said, this is my little intro video here. I'm going to go ahead and go into a part 2, and we're going to go and shoot it. It's very windy outside today, very cold outside today, but I think it definitely warrants a little bit of trigger time. So I did want to briefly just mention a couple things before I got going here. I I did not actually tell Fostech that I was a YouTuber, but it seemed like every other YouTube channel out there, IRECVet 8888, all the major channels, they got Fostech Echoes well before I did. I get it. Fostech wants to get promotion, but for the rest of us regular schlubs, we had to wait almost a year to get these things once we plunked down 200 bucks, and no communication whatsoever from Fostech until it was done. They well exceeded their estimated ship date, and as far as I'm concerned, that lack of communication was a little bit disconcerting. It started to feel like vaporware after a time, and I was not super happy about that. That said, it is a pretty cool system. It's definitely new, and I understand why they're trying to take so long to get it to market. Second thing, I do want to address the price tag. 500 bucks is a lot of money, but you've got to understand, there's a lot of intellectual property here. They have been developing this, and frankly, in comparison to the Franklin Armory trigger system, it is so much better that it's warranting, in my opinion, it's definitely worth the $500 price tag. You will go through a lot of ammunition with this. I would suggest limiting yourself unless you feel like shooting $100 worth of ammunition every time you go out. It is definitely expensive. No two bones about that. However, in comparison to a transferable machine gun, it is infinitely cheaper. So there's that. As far as reliability goes, it's been fantastic. I do want to just briefly mention the attachment procedure for your upper and your lower. This is clear, by the way. There is a little thing in here, which is really the magic sauce here, which is called a, I think they call it a safety block. It's basically a little sear thing in the back here that prevents it from firing out a battery and preventing hammer follow too. In order to attach this to your upper, you can't just attach this, right? In fact, it has to have the trigger forward, it has to be decocked. So essentially, in order to do that, you have to release this safety disconnector, and then you can pull the trigger in semi-automatic mode, let that go home. Now hold the trigger back. That's going to hold the safety disconnector thing here in the forward position, which then allows you to reconnect your upper and your lower. Once you get that together, you can release it and go on using your rifle as normal. So that's something I didn't understand when I first got into this, and it was not really all that well defined in the manual, so I just want to briefly mention that. That said, I got 2 magazines worth of ammunition. That's a lot of money. You know, with the 50 cents a shot of ammo, let's go burn through some. I don't want to spend too much more on ammo, but I'll tell you what, this thing is so fun. I just want to shoot it one more time. So let's take it out and crack some rounds off. So it's so freaking cold out here, I gotta warm myself up. I wonder how we're gonna do that. I'm gonna start off with a couple of semi-auto shots and do a couple controlled pairs. I'll tell you what, this receiver, I built this a long time ago. It has a little bit of difficulty keeping those magazines in, but I suspect if I downloaded one, that'd be just fine. Anyway, so Fostech Echo, and make some noise. Here we go. Semi-auto trigger, reasonably clean, got a little bit of creep to it, but relatively lightweight, about 4 to 5 pounds. It's a good trigger, not amazing. Decent. Let's do the Echo though. This is where the real magic begins. And there, I did not pull it back far enough. It did not quite work. Bit of a delay there. tell, it's quite fast. There's a little bit of an odd delay when it comes to actually pulling the trigger. If you don't pull it back sharply, it has a little bit of a strange motion to it. It like hesitates a little bit until you release the trigger, and then it will fire. So you really do have to engage both sears there. If I get this thing to run a little bit quicker. I'm going to try and back dump here. I don't have a whole lot of ammo today, but we'll see how it goes. That'll do. That was quick. Oh my god. So I'll tell you what, guys, does it have an application? Yes, I think it does. It is a heck of a lot of fun. Like I said, keep that manual close to you. It fires so fast, people are going to think it's an M16, and I suspect you might want to have some kind of legal explanation for what this is. As far as firing control pairs, very doable. You have to make sure you engage both sears, and there is a long trigger travel for the first stage of the Echo setting. It is different from the semi-auto setting. In which case, if you don't engage that first sear, you may wind up only firing around when you release the trigger. So it's something you really got to get used to. What I would suggest is, you know, of course, taking it and training with it. It's going to be expensive because you're going to run through a lot of ammo. If your gun runs steel case, good for you. Mine has a tendency to hesitate a little bit with steel case on this upper. It's a BCM upper. It's a good upper. I like this upper, but it does have a little bit of hesitation there. But as you can see, it runs reliably. I'm not getting, you know, overrides or hammer follow or whatever. This thing runs just fine. It's nice and warm now. It's about 25 degrees out here, like I said, and it's nice to have a little bit of something warm to hold on to. Do appreciate that, so thank you, Fostech. Overall, the expense is high. Yes, you're going to pay $500 for the trigger system. That is a heck of a lot of money. You could go buy a Glock for about that these days. You know, the TACCON 3MRs out there, it's about the same price. I believe the binary trigger systems from Franklin Armory are about the same price. So it's kind of up there with other comparable trigger systems. As far as I'm concerned, it's worth every penny. The machining quality is okay. I would say, again, like I said, 5 or 6 out of 10. The machining quality of the actual trigger unit in and of itself is okay. It's fine. Not amazing. Okay. There's a lot of pits. There's a lot of machine marks left on it. I understand they're trying to do these things very quickly, and they're probably just rushing to get them out the door. But for $500, I do expect it to be a little bit nicer. You can buy a super quality, beautifully machined trigger from Rise Armament for $250 that is going to blow away the semi-auto trigger in this gun here. If you're looking for a semi-automatic trigger, do not buy this, because this is not going to give you that semi-automatic trigger that's amazingly crisp, that's amazingly creep-free. In my opinion, it is a subpar high-end trigger for the semi-auto only. But the binary option on this really does set it apart from everything else that's on the market. Like I said, application for this, a quick double tap will take down an intruder in your home. It is controllable enough to shoot within close distance, I think, with that binary system. And that is a very quick into a fight. And I'll tell you what, if there's a home intruder in your house, you want to end that situation as quickly as possible. You don't want that kind of exposure to your family. Beyond that, I think honestly in a tactical setting for people who are armed militia, people who are responsible armed citizens who are going to defend the country against enemy foes, something that I think every American should consider. you know, and that might sound kind of fanciful, but hey, I mean, everybody hates the U.S., it seems, these days. You know, and we have it as a deterrent anyway. I think that this definitely has an option, or it's definitely an option, considering the cost of an M16. You know, this is a civilianized version of the M16, the military's weapon, and I think it's incumbent on all responsible citizens to be armed in the event of an emergency. And this might not be something that is unwarranted. I think it's definitely something to consider. What it is not good for is, I would say, pleasing your neighbors. It is very loud. You know, it's not good for making RSOs happy at the public range. I would not suggest it for indoor shooting at a public range. You know, of course, you don't want to shoot rounds up into the ceiling or something like that. That's just irresponsible. But you know, within the reasonable limits of responsibility, this thing is absolutely awesome. You know, apart from being frustrating to install, and expensive to buy, I tell you what, it's the next big thing. And I hate to use the word game changer, but really, these things, once they start being commercialized and cheapened up by other companies and becoming a little bit more normal, this will be the new fire control system you're going to find in AR-15s. And I guarantee you, once a company like Bushmaster or Remington or DPMS or whoever, basically a commercial AR-15 manufacturer, starts putting these things in their factory rifles, they are going to be everywhere, and everyone's going to want one. And as soon as they become affordable for the average person, absolutely. I could not see myself buying an AR-15 without one. Fantastic. Fostech, if I had any suggestions for you, I'd say speed up the delivery process. I would say clean up the semi-automatic trigger. I'd say if you can mechanically reduce the pull back and forth, that would be, in my opinion, a little bit better. And price-wise, you know, I get it, you got to recoup your investment for R&D, but yeah, it's a little bit steep. $500 is a lot of money. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching, everybody. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. If you do like the video, please subscribe to my channel. And of course, I would appreciate it if you'd throw a couple bucks my way on Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description below where you can go and contribute a little bit, especially considering high ammunition costs and high cost of investment in this trigger. And by the way, they didn't give it to me. I bought it with my own money. So it's mine. And yeah, it cost me a pretty penny. See you guys later. Bye.